Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Extra Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Time for a fragrance review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the fragrance Awake from the house of Akro. And if you've never heard of this house, this is Olivier Cresp's personal house. So he's the perfumer. He does everything for this house. And this one I've had for a little while now, and this is the perfect time of year to bust this one out. So I figured, let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. And in case you're watching this in the future, by perfect time of year, check the upload date, fall. So in today's video, what I'm gonna do is show you the presentation, like always, and break this down a little bit, let you know how it smells, and let you know why I like it. So let's jump into it and let's check it out. And before we do the presentation, let me give you those codes, that rundown of codes. For Lucky Scent, the code is still 10 Gents, 10 Gents. That'll get you 10% off the entire website, anything there. Great website for niche fragrances, indie fragrances. And for maxaroma.com and twistedlily.com, the code is Gents10. And that will also get you 10% off anything on those websites. Between those three websites, if you're looking for something niche, indie, or in the case of Max Aroma, sometimes designer, you should hopefully be able to find it at one of those places. All right, let's go ahead and check out the presentation of Awake. So here you have the box, but it's not a typical box. This is actually a tin. So you have the name of the house right there on the top of the tin. And on the back of it, you have the name of the house, the name of the fragrance, and the concentration, as well as your ingredients. And this is a 100 ml size bottle. And then you open up the tin, and there's a little foam cutout where the bottle sits inside of. So really simple, but it is different, obviously, than just about anything else out there as far as the presentation goes. And here we got the bottle. Again, really simple, but it feels good in the hand. It has nice weight to it. You have the name of the house, name of the fragrance, and the concentration on the front there. You have an A on top of the cap. And on the bottom of the bottle, you have a sticker and then your badge code. My badge code is 182866. The cap slides very snugly into place, but does not click into place. And I will say one thing that annoys me about this, and this is just kind of an OCD deal, it's not really a big problem or anything, but when I look at the bottle and the name of the house and the way it's kind of, over to the side, leaning toward the right, it makes me feel like it's off center. So like it's further to the right than it should be, like it should be a little bit more in the left, and that would center the name of the house there. And when I see it, it just looks off. Again, at the end of the day, that's not really a big deal, but it is something that I always just immediately notice, and I'm like, just move it over just a little, just a little. All right, you know what time it is? It's time to waste a couple sprays, so here we go. Ta-da. Got it all over my hand too. At least it smells good. So this house has fragrances that are built around different vices, essentially. So this one, Awake, is built around coffee, which as far as vices go is not really a bad one. They've also got fragrances based around smoking and drinking and tattoos and stuff like that. Coffee, that's pretty mild as far as vices go. Like if you talk to somebody and you're like, hey, what's your worst vice? Like what's the worst thing that you do that you really should correct? And they go, I'll tell you what, dude, I'm pretty wild, uncontrollable. You know what I do? Every morning, I drink a cup of coffee. What a vice. But that's what the fragrance is centered around, coffee. And if you look at the note breakdown, it's very simple. There are only 4 notes here. There's coffee, there's cardamom, there's vetiver, and then lemon. That's it, a very simple note breakdown. And you may think to yourself, well, surely this fragrance is going to have more than that going on. It's going to be more complex, more things happening. And I would say, no, not really. That's pretty much it. So when you hear that, that may sound bad. Just 4 notes. I'm not gonna pay for that. I'm not gonna pay a premium, a niche fragrance premium for that. And I would say, well, not so fast. Because when you spray Awake on, I've gotta say that it's the most photorealistic coffee fragrance that I think I've ever smelled. It immediately captures your attention. There's a lot of cardamom that's in there as well. It provides this nice spiciness, a little bit of sweetness underneath the coffee, but truly that coffee in the opening just shines and grabs your attention right away. My wife, I swear, every time I smell this fragrance, I have her, take a whiff of it, and every time she's like, wow, that's just exactly like a fresh, sweet cup of coffee. And I really think it just smells fantastic. Amazing, warm, spicy, awakening. Maybe not as much, because obviously there's no caffeine in the fragrance to kind of perk you up, unless maybe like in a Pavlov's dog kind of way. When you smell something that smells like coffee, you just kind of, perk up. Maybe in that sense, awake will awaken you. But it just does have this fantastic, warm and comforting coffee note that comes across clear as a bell and smells hyper realistic. So there are a lot of fragrances out there that do have coffee, roast coffee, but they have a lot of other things going on with them, a lot of other supporting notes, or maybe the coffee itself is a supporting note. There are countless scents with coffee in it, both designer, indie, and niche, but very few of them take the coffee and just put it right to the front of the scent and say, coffee, here you go. So as I said, lots of coffee, lots of cardamom in the opening. And as it dries down, yeah, pretty much the same thing. It stays pretty consistent, this one, not massive changes. And as far as the lemon goes in here, you don't really pick up too much discernible citrus in the fragrance. It's overshadowed immediately by the coffee and the cardamom in the opening, so you don't really pick up too much of that. As it dries down, slowly in the dry down, you'll pick out a little bit more of that vetiver, so you get this hint of woodiness that comes up to help try to shore up the dry down, give it a little more depth and everything as the coffee slowly fades from your skin and the cardamom fades from your skin. But there's not really a huge difference from the opening into the dry down, other than just some of that initial sweetness that you get. That fades away as the fragrance dries, and then you're left with more of like a dried coffee, essentially, with little bits of cardamom spice in there. So I guess that kind of cuts both ways, right? If you love the opening, you'll be very ecstatic to know that, hey, it's gonna stay pretty much like that the whole way through, other than that change from the sweetness kind of coming out, and then the vetiver coming in a bit as it dries down, but still by and large, pretty similar to the opening, into the mid, into the dry down. On the other hand, you might say, nah, I would rather have it have some changes, because ultimately at the end of the day, what this ends up smelling like is I'm wearing a coffee drink, and then it dries down and I'm still wearing it. And then it dries down more and I'm still wearing it. So you're gonna view it one of those ways, and it really depends on how much you do love that coffee opening here. For me, I love it. I think it smells awesome. But if you were to tell me, I don't like coffee, then I would say, yeah, you're not gonna like this. Or if you were to say, I want something that has more going on, more changes, more complexity, then I would say, yeah, this also probably won't work for you. But if you're just looking for a photorealistic coffee fragrance, that's what this is. So I love it for that. It's like, a bit artistic, but then still wearable, assuming you do enjoy that smell. But artistic in the way that you spray it on and it's unmistakable what it is. Olivier Cresp nailed that. Nailed it, crushed it. As far as seasons, obviously going to be more of a fall, wintertime fragrance, more of a cool weather fragrance. I think daytime or nighttime, either one personally. And as far as performance goes, projection, longevity, it's really good, above average. Lasts a long time on my skin, so over 8 hours. Projection, I would say, is above average, as I just mentioned, but it's not beast mode. It's kind of what you would expect from a cool weather coffee fragrance. It's strong enough that it's gonna last, it's gonna get you noticed if anybody's nearby you. If you go really heavy, then yeah, it could be a little overwhelming. But as long as you keep the sprays, in a normal level, people are easily gonna be able to pick it up, and it's gonna last a long time off your skin. Retail price for this is $185 for a 100 ml size bottle, which is not toward the cheaper side of niche fragrances, but it's not really toward the expensive side either. It's just a little bit under $2 per milliliter. And of course, if you pick it up using the 10% off code at whichever website you wanted to pick it up from, it's a little bit less than that. So Awake for me is a fragrance that I absolutely adore just because it does one thing, and it does that one thing really, really, really well. So there we go. That's my take on Awake. It's not exactly what I would call a novelty fragrance. I mean, some people maybe would view it that way, where you would spray it and have someone smell and they'd go, wow, just like coffee. And then you kind of put it back on the shelf. There are a number of niche fragrances that are kind of like that. For me, it's not that type of scent. It's definitely wearable. But as I said a number of times, and I want to drive this home, you do have to be a lover of the smell of coffee. If you're not, it's not going to work for you. If you are, check it out, sample it at least. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thank you for hanging out with me here until the end. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you again another day with another fragrance video. See you guys later.